What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another week and another episode of Unscripted. We're bringing you professionals from all walks of life. We touch on their backstory, their mindset, and how they navigate through adversity and opposition. As always, I'm your host, Akeem Haynes. Before we get into this week's episode, do us a huge favor. Head over to Apple Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and leave a rating and review of the show. Seriously, this small act goes a long way in moving the podcast forward. So if you got a quick 2 to 3 minutes, that would truly be appreciated. This week on the show, 1992 Olympian, former WBC light heavyweight champion, entrepreneur, and current boxing trainer, Montell Ice Griffin joins me on the show. Really enjoyed my conversation with Ice Griffin. You know, he was able to fit us in after training some of his fighters at his gym. He has a very interesting story, but I want to touch on something before, we kind of break down a little bit what we talk about. I was watching a previous interview that he did, and, he got inducted in a couple of different cities' Hall of Fame, but in the big Hall of Fame that most of these fighters are in, the Muhammad Ali's, the Larry Holmes, and Parnell Whitaker, and people of that nature, he didn't feel like he was respected in the same capacity as some of these other fighters, right? Now, I want to say this, and this is my personal opinion. For what he was able to do, for the size that he was, for the level of competition that he fought and the fighters that he fought, he beat two of the fighters that are in the Hall of Fame, right? So I don't make those calls, but I would love to see people in the conversation because of their resume. Now, it's not just in boxing. There's many other different sports that I feel like personally that people should be in the respected Hall of Fame that maybe aren't. So I just wanted to say that because I believe that his resume does speak for himself, what he was able to do, right? He's fighting these great fighters, and he's usually always the smaller guy, right? And coming in as the smaller guy, he was able to get some wins against some of the biggest names in boxing in his generation and his era. But we get into a lot of different things in this episode. We talk about his upbringing, his time with Muhammad Ali as a youth, right? We talk about making the Olympic team after taking 8 years off from boxing. Talk about his toughest fights against some of the greats, including Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Antonio Tarver, and many others. We talk about a hilarious story of when he first met Mr. Larry Holmes inside of that camp that Muhammad Ali was. We talk about how he battled depression in certain parts of his career. We talk about his controversial fight with Roy Jones the first time, how he balanced his life at this stage in his life. We talk about his top 5 favorite boxers of all time, and so much more. I believe you're going to get a lot from this episode, and I believe you are going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, enjoy this week's episode with Montell Ice Griffin.
Everywhere I go, my man with me. I'm out here everywhere I go. Everywhere I go.
I got him right here too.
Everywhere I go.
Oh man, I love it. Well, Champ, man, first and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. I know you have a lot going on. I know you just finished training, so I'm grateful for it, appreciative from it. I'm gonna let you get back to it, man. But I want to start with my first question. I'm very big on gratitude. I believe in any situation, when you start your day with being thankful for something, or when you finish your day with being thankful for something, it's hard to start in a negative state. So I want to ask you, Montel, what are 3 things you're grateful for today?
Well, I'm all for waking up. So I'm grateful for, breathing, and grateful for my children, and grateful for, my life.
So before we get to the boxing side of it, Montel, we gotta create the backstory, right, and give a little bit more insight to it. Originally from Chicago, right, coming up in the 70s and 80s, what was that environment around you like during that time? Because it's a different time now than it was back then. But what was it like growing up for you? What were you seeing?
Oh, it was cool. Boxing was going real good in Chicago. As you know, Chicago was a mecca of boxing in the 20s and 30s. It was a mecca, and actually it's kind of crazy because things was picking up. Uh, uh, Ernie Terrell, the former heavyweight champion of the world, was offered ESPN Chicago and turned it down. So that's kind of crazy. I think boxing would have been a lot more bigger if that didn't happen. Cause we had the Sassoon tournament here the first time on ESPN. The Sassoon tournament was the ESPN tournament, and it started here in Chicago. So in the 70s, 80s, things was going real good, especially Leroy Murphy.
When you were coming up, what I know you spoke about it before. Of the picture we just showed of Muhammad Ali, right? You know, as I was doing my research and I was figuring out some things, you were kind of predisposed to boxing early on than most people would, right? When most people saw some of the pictures that you were showing, you know, you didn't think of it as a big deal, but they did as well too. I read that your dad was a trainer and he was in the gym, but you were also going with him and you saw some faces that most people aren't able to be privy to. What do you remember most about going to the gym with your father and seeing some of those fighters and those people? And is there any stories that you could share with us?
I mean, growing up in a boxing gym, going with my father, who I love to death, just going, you know, just the memories is, man, they awesome. They great to me. I just miss that, you know, being 51, going on 52 right now. Just looking back at 3, 4, 5 years old, going to the gym with my father and Muhammad Ali trained in my father's gym. Eddie Perkins, Ernie Terrell, top champs, and it was a great experience.
I got to meet Mr. Larry Holmes before Christmas time, and there was a story that you told about Larry Holmes when you guys first had that first altercation or interaction. Can you tell me that story again from your ears? I want to hear it from you.
I mean, you know, I'm 70 years old. You know, Muhammad Ali the greatest in the world to me, and he my man. And you know, this young heavyweight, I saw him. You know, he sparred Muhammad Ali. It was tit for tat. It was going back and forth, and you know, I knew Jimmy Ellis, who was he was world champ already. Toney Tubbs was one of the top amateurs at the time, and this kid, I went in the dressing room, and this kid was like, "Man, I'm gonna be the man one day. All this gonna be mine. I'm gonna be the man." And I'm like, who is this disrespectful ass? You know, I'm 7, 8 years old, so I'm thinking that he disrespected Muhammad Ali. But as I grew up and became a man, I understand what he meant. And I sat there and told him, I said, bro, you are Larry Holmes. And when I was 7 years old, I heard you tell everybody that you was going to be one of the greatest heavyweights ever. And he made it. And that was just awesome to me.
You've said many times that you know, your dad and Muhammad Ali are kind of your heroes. Montel, I want to ask you, man, what did you get from Ali? I know it was an early age, but also, what were some things that your father taught you, maybe directly or indirectly, that maybe you go back to on this day, even during this time in your life?
I mean, just being loyal and honest. Be loyal, honest, be a good person. You know what I'm saying? I got that from my father. I got that from Muhammad Ali. He always came through for my father. He was always there for him. You know what I'm saying? He looked out for him. My father turned down so much stuff from Muhammad Ali because he said he never wanted to feel like he was taking advantage of him.
Wow.
And you know what I'm saying? As a kid, I was mad, but as I grew up, I understood.
What was one of the interesting things that I found out about you, Montel, during your career, right? And this I think is going to explain a lot. From 12, right, you stopped boxing, right? And then you came back at 20, if I remember correctly. And then you made the Olympic team that following year, right? So before we talk about the Olympic part of it, man, what first of all, what made you stop boxing? But also, what were you doing in that 8-year span, and what made you come back to it? Because if you haven't done something for that long, chances are you're probably not coming back.
Man, my mother was Jehovah's Witness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So as I was growing up, I was going to the gym with my father every day. And at night, I would go to the Kingdom Hall with my mother. So it was like a normal life for me. I didn't know. But it came to a point where Jehovah's Witnesses couldn't be involved with boxing. So my mother made me quit boxing. So my father died. I quit boxing at 12 going on 13. And I came back at 20 going on 21. So it was 8 years. And the thing I be trying to explain to people, you know, you can only officially box at 10 years old when I was a kid. So I boxed from 10 to 12 and a half. So I boxed 2.5 years of my life. I quit for 8 years. I came back, and in 4 years, I made the Olympian team with 30 fights, and I beat James Toney with 14 fights. So, I mean, if that's not, you know, if that's not Hall of Fame material, I don't know what is.
I don't think people understand how hard that is. And maybe they never will, right? But for the ones who are in the sport and are privy enough to understand how things work, that's crazy when you're able to think about it. So you get to you make the Olympic team. What was that situation like, right? Like, how did you get your mind right back to even go back into boxing, right? Because one, you probably had to lose some weight. You probably had to get yourself in shape. Probably, you know, you literally got to take a bet and a risk on yourself. So walk me through that whole transition for you.
Man, it was just a crazy time in my life. I was 20 years old. I lost my job. My car broke down. One of my buddies, Griffin Joins, had passed away. I went off to a deep depression. I got up to 210 pounds. And I just, my buddy, Ron Lee, his father, bought my car for $500. And I bought a plane ticket, and I had $200 to my name. And everything from there just worked out for me.
What? So when you got there, did you already have a coach? Did you already have something figured out?
Like, I didn't know I was living. I just took a huge chance. My nephew told me he's gonna set us up with an apartment. When I got there, it wasn't no apartment, and I was homeless, and his car was broken down. So I was mad. Things just wasn't working out. But you know, to just let you know, as a God out here, things. I ended up all right. You know what I'm saying? Everything was okay.
How did you find that? How did you create that foundation? Like, where were you staying? How did you get yourself, you know, getting to the gym? How did you do that?
I just so happened, I had a round trip ticket. You know what I'm saying? I gave myself a month to come back home if things didn't work out. So before the month was, you know, the clock was ticking. I had called my auntie, who I hadn't seen in years. And she was like, man, I see you kept calling. I kept getting phone calls, and this is from this number. So she just happened to call this number back. That was call ID, has first started. Call back to my buddy's house. She said, why are you out here? I said, man, I'm just trying to do something with my life. And she said, do you need some place to stay? And I said, yes. And that was it. It was like magic to my ears.
Where does that come from, Montel? Because, man, you know, a lot of people say that they want to take a risk on themselves and they want to go and try to make some things happen. But, you know, it's a little bit different when you have to risk it out there and then there is no net to fall under, right? So where does that come from you, that kind of survival mindset?
Man, just being around Muhammad Ali, man. As a kid, he just gave me so much confidence, man. Being around Muhammad Ali.
Let's talk about the Olympics, right? And that whole process, because for me, I ran track and field. I've been to 2 Olympic games, but the way how it works in track, right, is is you got to run a certain time, A standard or a B standard a couple times, and then you have to go to Olympic trials and you got to finish top 3 in your event. Is that kind of how it works in boxing as well too, in a similar way?
Well, in the USA at the time, only 8 people made it to the Olympic trials. Out of all the hundreds of thousands of people that fight, wow, only 8 people per weight class make the trial. So you go to the Olympic trials, you have 3 fights, and the winner is the champion. And after that, they have, after you win the Olympic trials, you are the champion. You and the top challenger, you out of the top 8, go to the box office, and then y'all have to fight each other. And the trials champion only had to win 1 fight, but the alternate had to win 2 fights. So if you win 1 fight, you're on the team. I thought everybody in the arena thought I won the Olympic trials, but I didn't get the decision. So I had to come in as an alternate. So I had to beat Jeremy Williams twice. I beat him twice, and that's how I made the team.
Where you finally where people started to ask, yo, who is this guy, right? Because essentially you kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew, but did you start to get those questions?
You know what? It kind of worked out for me, and it worked against me too. Everywhere I went, I was the new guy. Where I come from, I just came out of nowhere. But it kind of worked against me because everybody looked at me like it was a fluke. Because I was only 5'7", and the things I was doing was just so great, it had to be a fluke. But I just kept doing it over and over, and I never got no credit for
it. What was one of your toughest matchups in the amateurs for you?
Well, of course, Jeremy Williams. Jeremy Williams had over 100 knockouts. He had 170 wins. He was a top dog. He was on top for like 2-3 years. And I came out of nowhere and knocked him off the block.
When you got to the Olympics in Barcelona, I also read that there was a bit of a controversy in your 3rd fight. What do you remember most actually about your Olympic experience during that time?
Well, I just learned how dirty, how dirty it is. I see that's why they taking boxing out of Olympics now, because they said it's high of just it's just dirty all over the board. I fought the world champion on national TV. I cut his eye open. He was bleeding like a pig. No amateur fighting history has been continued to go on but mine. The fight should have been stopped. And 45 seconds ago, I was still winning, and they took 3 points from me, and that's how I lost.
3? Wow.
Yeah.
So when you got back, man, how'd you feel? Right? Like here you leave to accomplish this goal, and you did it, but it seems like a little unfinished.
I was happy and sad. Half of my dream came through. I made the team, but I didn't get the gold medal. And I know I was good enough to get the gold medal, and I should have got the gold medal. Did you see a future in this at this point in your life, Montel? I mean, well, when I sparred James Toney and Reggie Johnson. I sparred James the Heat Kitchen as an amateur, and I did pretty good. So I always felt I was gonna be good enough to be a pro and be successful.
As a man at this point in your life, 20, 22, 21 years old, where were you in your own personal development, right? I believe in purpose, right? But where were you at this point? Did you start to deal with the depression a little bit better because you found something here? How did you deal with that in your own personal development at that time?
Well, I mean, just trying to get over, my father's death. It got worse. I was 12 years old. He was the reason I was even involved in boxing. And to be involved in boxing by myself, I did everything by myself. I had to train a couple of. I worked with Jesse Reed for a little while, and him and my support I got into it, so we went separate ways. And then I worked with Chris Bird's father at the Olympic training camp, training for the trials. But, what I'm saying? I pretty much, like, I did all this on my own, man. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's, because of my father. And, what I'm saying? He almost been dead 40 years now.
Your relationship with Muhammad Ali during this time, how was that?
During what time?
During the time when you were coming up boxing.
It was great.
Did he give you any tips and advice during that moment?
I mean, at that time, I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. He just said, "How you gonna be champ?" You know what I'm saying? You can be champ, you can be whatever you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Just work hard, stuff like that. But I was young, you know what I'm saying? But when my father died, that's when I lost contact with Ali.
1993, Montel, man, as I was looking back, you fought 10 times that year, man. And, nowadays these fighters aren't really fighting that much going in. But what I realized, and just a lot of good amateur boxers and Olympic boxers don't necessarily make good professional careers. But you didn't seem to have those issues, man. I mean, you came out 10 for 10. What do you equate that to?
The pro style was easier for me than amateur style. So it was easier for me to fight pro than amateur.
What was the difference? What made it easier for you?
The amateur style is terrible. Whoever's in charge of who made the rules is terrible, don't know nothing about boxing. The amateur style is robotic. It's just punch straight punches, get hit. They don't care about defense. And it's crazy. So it's a lot of guys who fought like that who couldn't turn over the pros because they was getting hit too much. So, you know what I'm saying? I learned, you know what I'm saying? Evidently, I learned by fighting, by watching pros on tape. So I fought like a pro. So it kind of worked against me. And because I was so short for being a light heavyweight.
Who were some of the fighters you were watching?
Oh, as a kid, my father was Joe Louis fan. That was his favorite fighter. So I watched Joe Louis. I watched Ray Robinson. I watched Jersey Joe Walcott, Willie Pep, and then I watched a guy named Muhammad Ali, and it was over after that.
Montel, I want to ask you about four fights, 4 different ones in 4 different frames. The first fight was a guy you said you sparred with was James Toney, whom people consider one of the best defensive fighters in the sport, but you fought him twice. And you beat him twice, unanimous decision. What was the difference between fighting him the first time and the second time for you?
Experience, that's it. The first time I beat James, I just outworked him. That's all. I out-hustled him. The second time I beat James, I used more skill. And I was proud of myself to show that I had that much development in a year.
Was it easy to get those fights made? Because I know sometimes there's a lot of politics involved with it, right? Maybe it's
because what I'm saying, I have a good name, so I'm a good opponent. You know what I'm saying? I was always on the B side, so I was, what I'm saying, with my record and everything, I would always sell because what I'm saying, I was a great B side fighter.
The second fight that I want to ask you about is obviously the Roy Jones, right? Because you fought him twice. I went back and I was watching the first one a couple times, right? Because a lot of people were saying, they had Roy Jones up on the cards and this and that. But I was watching it and I was like, no, I don't think that's true. I was watching it and I'm like, man, you were up on the cards, in my opinion. And then when the late hit happened and the fight was stopped, what do you remember most about that fight right there? And do you think the hit was on purpose?
Of course, he was frustrated.
Yeah,
he was pound for pound the best fighter in the world. He got in with a guy he never fought a step like that before. I got under his skin, and it was my fault. I ended up turning instead of blocking the shot. I turned with it and got hit in the back of the head. So it was my fault. I got hurt, so I took a knee. But you know what I'm saying, he was frustrated. So he caught the opportunity and he took it.
What's the relationship with you guys today? Are you guys cordial?
I mean, the respect is there. You know why? Yeah. Because if we didn't respect each other, we wouldn't even be going back and forth. I mean, You know, 1 minute we cool, 1 minute something said, 1 minute we cool. But I mean, when it's all said and done, man, Roy Jones made me a millionaire, man. He took care of my family, man. So you know what I'm saying? Ain't got nothing negative to say about it.
The other fighter, Antonio Tarver, he was another one of the best in that era that you fought. He was a tricky fighter. What do you remember most about that matchup?
I got knocked out in the first round. I still went the distance. I got hit in the back of the head in the first round, and I still went the distance. I had a concussion in the first round. I still went the distance, so I got mad respect for myself for doing that.
What makes you different than most fighters, Montel, man?
Man, I was good. You know what I'm saying? I respected the game. I did everything right. I didn't bring nothing. I didn't bring no negativity to the game, no embarrassment. I was, you know what I'm saying? I didn't always have the greatest training workout schedules, but I always gave my all, man. I never shortchanged nobody. My trainers, myself, my fans.
One thing I respected about you and respect about you as I was following your career, man, is, you know, you fought the best in the era, and a lot of people aren't able to say that they are doing that, especially in the sport. But I want to talk about August 19th, 2011 in Indiana, your last fight. What was that last training camp going in leading up to that fight? And was the plan to retire after that one?
On to that last fight, I was a Cook County sheriff, so I knew it was gonna be over soon. But I felt good. I was in shape. I had finally started having problems making 75, 78. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? I was a little I started feeling myself getting drained, and but I felt good, and I knew I was fighting a guy who was an amateur star, and I knew he was, gonna come to win, and I was in perfect shape. I was so slick for that fight, man, and man, I beat this man to death, man. He didn't go down, man. I just after the fight, I went to his dressing room to just shake his hand, and he really wasn't too pleased with me being in there, but I just looked on his face. The man was beat up, so he just had a lot of determination not to let me knock him out. And that's one thing that I remember. Because I've been stuck on, me and my brother was joking. I was like, man, I've been stuck on 30 knockouts for a long time. I said, it'd be good to go out with a knockout. Man, I tried my best to knock this man out, but he ain't let me do it. Respect. And he just passed away, so respect to Mr. Abraham.
Yes. In your career, many people, they have their own opinions of what do they think Montell's best fight was. But from you, who do you think was your toughest opposition?
I was just explaining this to somebody about 30 minutes ago. They said, who was my toughest fight? And I said, I can't really answer that question with just one fight. I had to say that when I fought Ray Lathan, my 13th fight, I fought Ray Lathan, and the power that this man had and how hard he hit me, and for me to go 12 rounds with him and to win that fight made me know that I could beat anybody. So when I fought, of course, when I fought Roy and James, all them guys, they was close, tough fights, but I don't think I never would have been there until I got that experience with Ray Lathan. And he passed away too, so respect to him too.
How were you finding balance at this time? At this time, Montel, family, business, and everything that comes with it. It can be hard, but how are you finding balance in the midst of what can often seem like a chaos at times?
I mean, there's a lot going on right now in my life. So many things I'm trying to do. I got a gym, I got a business, I'm a boxing trainer. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing comedy now. I'm acting in the play next month. I'm trying to start my own strain of weed. So, man, it's a lot going on. But, man, I just get some rest and just take care of business and do what I got to do.
Maybe you've thought about this next question. Maybe you've asked yourself this question before. But at this stage in your life, you know, you've been able to accomplish a lot of different things. What do you think your father would have said about you? You know, not just about your career, Montell, but as a man, right? I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he would have been proud of you, is proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I couple of things that happened in my career. You know what I'm saying? I needed a father. I needed somebody on my side to make decisions for things when to go wrong. So I think for me, my father not being a fighter, he went to a boxing gym. He taught himself, you know what I'm saying, the boxing, and bought his own gym. I mean, opened up his own gym, and to have a son, make an Olympic team, be the world champion. I got 3 victories against 2 Hall of Famers. I think he'd be happy. I think he'd be happy with what his son did in life.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask these next couple questions here. Give me your top 5 favorite boxers of all time, Montel.
My top 5 favorite boxers is really 6.
Okay.
Because I don't count Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali is God. So I only count Muhammad Ali is God. And then I got Michael Spinks, Pernell Whitaker, James Toney, Evander Holyfield, and Floyd Mayweather. Those are my 5 favorite fighters.
Who do you like in this era?
Oh, Canelo. Canelo's the best fighter in the world.
Give me. Why? Why would you say he's the best in the world? I know many do, but why do you say
his business savvy. He learned a lot from Floyd. You know what I'm saying? He learned a lot from watching Floyd. He the slickest Mexican ever in boxing history. I don't care what you say. Salvador Sanchez is pretty good. Chavez is pretty good, but Canelo's the slickest. He's the slickest Mexican ever. Only Mexican I've seen as slick is Orlando Canizales, who doesn't get the respect he deserves. But as far as Canelo being a bigger guy from welterweight, middleweight, be light heavyweight champion of the world, he's the slickest Mexican ever.
Last couple questions, Montel. I know as a trainer now, I know one of your fighters is Sean Simpson, if I remember correctly. Do you get more fulfillment and joy training fighters right now, helping them reach their goals, their dreams and aspirations as much as you did when you were?
Sean obtained an injury in the sport, so he had to retire. So you know what I'm saying? I hate that for him, but you know what I'm saying, man, I just I come to the gym every day, man. I try to give back to these kids. I'm working with a few kids now that I think have pretty good futures. I just worked with Vaughn Alexander last month in LA. We beat number 4 Rivas at middleweight. So we so I've been working with a couple of guys, man. We've getting some big wins.
One of the things I respect about you, Montel, as I was doing my research and reading up, man, is the work that you've been doing in your community. People talk about giving back, but you actually live it. I want to talk a little bit about Windy City Boxing Club. Why did you want to start this gym, and why is it such a key component to being a representation and a good example for the youth to you?
Well, the crazy part about it is I was Cook County Sheriff and got suspended without pay on my job. That's how I opened up the boxing gym. So I can't even lie and say it was just something I wanted to do. I was forced to do it. I had to do it, and I did it. So I opened up the gym, and we opened up we have a foundation here, Windy City Boxing Youth Foundation here, where we give 30 scholarships out a month to train kids.
Wow. Yeah, that's, man. When you think about the full circle of it, at least for me, you may not have had that physical presence of your father there with certain decisions, but you're able to give that to the kids right now at this stage in their lives, right? Because I think male mentorship is important to men as well too.
Yeah.
Last question, Montel. What has boxing taught you about yourself?
Boxing taught me about loyalty, because it ain't none. in boxing. Taught me to work hard, because in boxing, everything I did in boxing, man, me being, you know what I'm saying, just in a regular guy in life, you know, things come easy because of boxing. So boxing taught me a lot about discipline and determination. You know what I'm saying? It taught me, you know what I'm saying, about being loyal, and taught me to be a good person, man. Like, you know, guys boxing, nobody hate each other, man. It's a business, man. So everybody, you know, every guy who been in the ring with each other, even if they thought they dislike the guy a little bit, once you get in the ring with him, it's respect. Y'all bonded forever.
Montel, what's the best way for people to keep in touch and stay in touch with you, man?
Well, you can. I'm on Facebook under Montell Griffin. I'm on IG under Montell Ice Griffin. On Twitter under Montell 175. Montell Ice 175.
Where'd the nickname Ice come from? Where'd the nickname Ice come from?
When I came back from Barcelona, a buddy of mine, Brian Cooper, used to call me Ice all the time, man. I never asked him why. He just said, yeah, what's up, Ice? What's up, Ice? And I was like, where'd that come from? But I never asked him. So when I turned pro, they said, what's your boxing name? I said, I don't have a boxing name, but my friend called me Ice. So I wrote it down. But Eddie Futch just said that I was so cool under pressure. He said he had never seen nobody so cool and calm like me. So I was cool as ice. So, you know, when I fought James Toney, only 14 fights, he was a 2-time world champion and one of the greatest fighters ever. And I went in like it was nothing because, you know what I'm saying, I'm cool as ice, baby.
Man, I love it.
I just want to say, tell everybody, check out this Ice Life, man.
Ice Life. I love it.
The Ice Life. The icelifebook.com is my link. The icelifebook.com. Check out the link. Check out. I got a crazy life story, man. Check it out.
We're gonna make sure we plug that in and make sure we get that going here. Montel, man, I appreciate your time, man. And from me to you, man, anybody looks at your resume, see who you've been up against, see the size of what you've been able to do, man. It speaks for itself, man. Definitely a career that is not going to be matched by many, man. So much respect and appreciation, man. I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming on, man.
Much respect. I appreciate it.
All right, Montel. Later, man.
My man.